Cameraman Grades, cameramangrades.com, professional consultations for camera operators, video coordinators, and sports video experts at all levels. Find us at cameramangrades.com or can contact us directly at cameramangrades@gmail.com for your own sports video consultation. Currently looking for the best camera operator of the 2025 NFL season? These are the best of the best, and we're going to put it to the test. Today, we are looking at the Minnesota Vikings at home against the Atlanta Falcons. Let's get into it. All right. We've got a good setup to start on the kickoff. I would probably like to see a little tighter on the backside of the front line of the receiving team there. But it's more about what they're going to do with it next. In most cases, I would recommend not keeping the kicker in the shot. Some of the NFL filmers will keep the kicker in the shot, but some of the best ones that I've seen do not. They immediately just pan over without zooming out, just a straight pan over to find the ball as the receiver catches it or as it's downed back into the end zone. So that's what I'm seeing as a best practice for the NFL right now, but there are teams that are still including the kicker in the shot. He really isn't doing much, so it's really better to see what the other 21 guys on the field are doing. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so they're zooming out. Yep. Nice smooth zoom. I like it. Okay. All right. So this is a nice tight shot. Nice setup to start. Really good looking footage. The colors are vibrant. Fantastic looking film. There is a guy here. It's kind of hidden into the middle of the field there, into the logo. But you got less than 5 yards on each side of the ball. That's fantastic. As they zoom out here, okay, this is a run play, so everything is going to start condensing very quickly. You see these guys are already changing directions and heading towards the ball carrier. So run recognition is going to be a big part of that. Once they start to zoom out, do they recognize that it's a run? Okay, now that we're here, right, the run recognition would come into play. You're not going to include the quarterback. He's no longer going to be part of the play, obviously. But you can see that as this play condenses on the run, all the players are right here, okay, in this spot. So if you were to take that down to the corner, you're really only looking at 60 to 65% of your screens being used for football. All right, and that's just a general estimate based on how much space is right here. Okay, so this, if this is the halfway point here, the box is just barely past the halfway point, and so that's encapsulating all of the players on the field right there. So everything else is just wasted space along the edges. All right, now once we get to this point, even if you are zoomed out a little farther, recognizing that it's a run and just slowly zooming in to get more detail. I can already see great detail. This is good footage, good clean video. But now they're zooming in. Okay, now we're zoomed in and we're seeing everybody on the field. We're cutting out some guys here and we're leaving a bunch of empty space here. So it would make sense to just, instead of centering this player, just letting more players be seen and letting him run down the lower edge of the frame. But while we're here, we should be zooming in at this point. Everybody's condensing. And they start zooming back out and then zooming in again and then zooming out and then zooming in again. So if I go back and play this in regular time here, you're going to see him zoom out, then zoom back in, then zoom back out, then zoom back in, then zoom back out, then zoom back in. Okay, pick one, right? Once you get to that point, just go ahead and start to zoom in slowly, or don't, right? Go ahead and leave it where it's at and just follow the action. All right. But all in all, still a good play. They're not doing anything egregiously wrong in that. Yep. It's good framing. Again, just avoid centering the ball as you get to this point. Okay. Why drop this guy out of the frame just to include more space of what's going on the sidelines, right? I'd rather just leave more space down here to see more players and see kind of where this ball carrier is in relation to the rest of the players on the field. But again, this is good footage. They're not doing anything wrong here. Okay, you got a lot of space behind the quarterback on this one. Not bad though. Still within 10 yards. More about what you do with it after everybody starts to move around at that point. Okay, zooming out on a run play. Just recognizing that that's clearly a run. There's nothing else going on there. Nobody was running downfield. Everybody saw that it was a run and was responding to it immediately. So the filmer can do the same. Oh, okay. Interesting. A lot of motion before the play there on the defensive side of the ball specifically. They're all over the place. Okay, and he's reframing. Again, leaving a lot of space back behind the quarterback. Okay, we've already got, 6 yards, 7 yards there. All right, and then once you start to zoom out, okay, zooming out already for no reason, right? There's nobody running back this direction that you would have to zoom out this way. So now, at the snap of the ball, we're already 7 yards, 8 yards deep, and then we've already got another 5 yards this direction. So from there, okay, now we're really zoomed out. We've got another 10 to 12 yards this direction and 10 to 12 yards in that direction. So at this point, we're way farther out than we need to be. We've got way more space in both directions, and we'll just throw the box up on it just to see. You're back to 60 to 65%, right? Not much has changed from the last time. So at this on this one, I would say this is way too much zooming out for this, and I would consider that to be a negative, in that you're not clinging those guys to the edge of the shot. Fourth and 2, rushing up to the line. Camera operator's doing a great job of recognizing that was a hurry up. No play. Okay, good setup on special teams. Field goal. No movement. Let's just go ahead and watch it. Looks good. I don't know. Looked like both sides were celebrating that for some reason. All right, special teams kickoff. Wide zoom, and then coming in pretty quick. If you don't include the kicker in that shot, you see a whole lot more detail of what people are coming down the field, but it's for what they're doing a good job at it. Okay, zooming out pretty aggressively to the one side there. Probably still within 10 yards. I'll go ahead and give them the benefit of the doubt on that one. But just recognizing that you don't have to zoom out at the start of the play. Okay. Only have to zoom out when you see players that are pressing the edges of your shot. All right. This could be a tighter frame to start, and that usually means that, starting wide and zooming out from there is not a great plan. Okay. So right here, we're already starting with very limited amount of screen that's being used. All right. About 80 to 85%. All right. And where do they go from there? Zooming out. All right. Let's box it up again. Okay. So they're zooming out farther, not keeping up with where they were at originally, and it's starting to get out wider than it was before. And then here, even wider. Okay, now we're back towards that 50%, 50 to 60%. And if they're still zooming out, it's going to get worse. Okay, at this point they stopped zooming out, which is good, right? So it is improving from this point forward, and they're starting to zoom back in. Okay. And now we see numbers again, right? So that's the whole point. It only does you so much good if you can't even tell who the players are on the field. So staying as tight as you can while making sure that you're keeping everybody in the shot. It is an all 22, but obviously there's not all 22 players in this shot, right? So it's not all 22 all the time. It's all 22 as it makes sense for the football play that's going on the field. And are you keeping up with that play? And are you responding to it accordingly? All right. Fourth and 1. Let's check that again here. Okay. Whew. Okay, pretty tight right there. Of course, I clicked back to the beginning of the entire play. So I'm going to go back here and find 951. It's the next play here. Okay. So 4th and 1. This player again is hiding in the logo. Zooming in to see the play on a quarterback sneak doesn't really gain you much, and then they ended up zooming right back out anyway. So at that point, I probably just leave it and let you see what's going on in the play. But it's good stuff. Okay, I'm not sure what happened there. It looked good, but it seemed to get cut off. All right, This one, again, for the most part, looks good. A lot of extra space on the edges. Just a little quick on the zooms, where zooming out just to make sure that everybody stays in the shot. But when you don't have to zoom out as much, don't. All right. A lot of extra space behind the quarterback. That is 15 yards. So that is aggressive. And then zooming out from there, right? So if you are going to leave extra space, leave it behind the defense, because that's where the direction of the ball is going anyway. As everybody runs downfield, if you've got extra space behind the defense, you don't have to move the camera at all. You don't have to do any sort of zooming out or even panning at that point. Both of those special teams are looking really good. Okay, could be tighter on the setup here. Got some space behind the defense within reason. Okay, run recognition at the point where you're seeing that it's a run, you really wouldn't be zooming out anymore. He had already zoomed out as it was. It wasn't too bad, but just one of those things to recognize. Once you see that it's a run, everybody's going to be running to the same point on the field, and that is the ball carrier. Defenders are going to be running to the ball, and the blockers are going to be running to cut them off before they get there. That was a nice tight shot, stayed with it. Punting. This is the first punt we've seen of the game. Okay, so there, nice wide shot to keep everybody in the shot, and then making sure that you see where the ball lands. So that's great for measuring hang time, punting distance. Punters love to see where they got the ball to, and then they track that to make sure that they're improving. It was a nice tight shot, stayed with it. Zoomed in a little aggressively at the end. There's you're not missing anything if you're not coming in that close at the end. So, but overall, that was a really good response to what was going on the field and recognizing what's going on the field. Same here. Okay, so that run recognition is improving since the first drive. So we put together a string of some excellent plays here. Sometimes it just takes a couple drives for the filmer to get into the groove of things during the game. I've been there, nerves and just calming down and settling into what you're good at. Oh my, let's go. It's good stuff. They did go out a little wider on that, but responded really well to what was going on the field on a play that had a lot of changes to it. Nice. See, so now they saw that they were out wider. They came in to tighten up that framing to start. Run recognition coming in, recognizing that nobody's zooming out at, there's no reason to zoom out with nobody running downfield at that point. Okay, leaving some space on this one to start, and it's a run. That space really didn't amount to any useful help as far as seeing more detail of what's going on the field. Okay, a lot of zooming in and out. They were zooming in and out 4, 5, 6 times on that play, even before the play started. So if there's no reason to zoom out, then you don't need to. Okay, zooming out way wider than needed at this point. They do end up coming into that frame, and then they stop zooming, so people did start to fill it up again. But just staying tight with the action on the field. This is good. This is getting a little wider. Okay. It's good stuff. Thought that was a flag coming in. It was the guy's gloves. I bet he gets that a lot. All right. Oh, no play. All right, if you hadn't caught on to the grading, the first column there is good plays. Second column is excellent plays. Third column is no play. Fourth column is special teams. Everything to the right of the gray bar is a negative in some way. Okay, so far we've had 5 times where they've zoomed out farther than they really needed to the point where it became less helpful for the team. Okay. All in all, this is footage that 99% of the coaches across the country would kill somebody to have footage like this. It's really as good as it gets. And you're going to see that for most of the teams in the NFL. Really is the best of the best, in one of the most challenging locations to film some what they call sideline shots or press box angles in football. They used to refer to it as sideline, but in my mind, sideline shots are actually down on the sidelines, and press box angles are shot from on top of the press box. End zone angles are a whole different category, much tighter to the offensive and defensive line, and shot from, as you would expect, from the back of the end zone, from an elevated position. Okay, there's still even some space behind the defense there. Sometimes it's unavoidable if people are pressing the top and bottom of the screen. Oh, interesting. Okay, staying with the action really well at this point. Responding to what's going on the field, and not making any aggressive movements one way or the other. Every time you make an aggressive movement, everybody has to stop and try to figure out what just happened. I was looking at this guy, and now he's somewhere else. We were watching it here, and all of a sudden it zoomed out 20 yards. Right, where'd everybody go? They're still in the screen, but their position has changed relative to everything else. Oof. Excellent shot. Okay. Yep, getting up closer, getting tighter when you can. Getting good with the zoom controls can make all the difference. So sometimes these zooms have been really aggressive, where they zoom out so quickly that they're out 20 yards on both directions, and then at other times, zooming out very, very slowly, and then staying out wide so that they can zoom out slower. So that doesn't necessarily help either, right? The middle ground would be to get in tight and then zoom at a medium pace in order to keep up with the players at their own pace, at the speed that they're moving, just like this. Okay, that was the right amount of zoom for the play. All right, a lot of space on the sides here. And nowhere to go but to zoom in on that one. Okay, this is good. Good setup. Run recognition. There was absolutely nobody running downfield. When you see it's a run, go ahead and leave it where it's at, and then start to zoom in. If you see the quarterback pulling away like he's still got the ball, then obviously, recognizing that it's could be a play fake and that they're gonna run a go route, and you're gonna have to keep up with that. But let's take a look here. There's something that we haven't seen yet in this game, and it's this guy dropping out the back of the shot. You have to release your setup. Okay, so once you get set at the start of the ball, at the start of the play, right? This is your setup. This is where you're set. Okay, your camera's set. All your controls are set. Nobody's moving until they snap the ball. Once they snap the ball, you have to release all of that from where it was at, and then just keep up with where everybody's at. You can't let people drop out of the shot, or else otherwise it's an all 21, not an all 22. So here we go. We've got somebody that runs off the screen. At some point, the play is not there, right? But it's not at the point where this guy drops out. He drops out here while this quarterback still has the ball. He's still looking downfield. At the point where this starts to become a sack, you can start to cut people out and come back in to zoom in on that. But this is going to be in this release category. We're gonna mark that as a negative for dropping out, not releasing with the players as they run downfield. Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay. Let's take a look at this real quick. They're set up, and then just move up for some reason. Okay, so this is kind of one of those things where anticipating and responding is the process. Okay, anticipate what's going to happen next, but only respond when you have to. You got motion, right? This person sees motion, the camera operator sees motion, and so just move the camera up. Well, that doesn't really make any sense because he doesn't actually go that direction. If he goes here and he starts to run off the screen, then yeah, you're going to have to move the camera up to respond to that motion. But there's no reason to respond up right there. Okay, and then if they come back down, they end up having to come back down anyways if they're throwing a short pass to the right hand sideline. You're going to end up moving up and then right back down again. So anticipating that this motion could push your shot up, but not actually doing it. And then again, that framing to start. Okay, so this framing here isn't real tight to the edges of the shot. There's a lot of extra green around the edges here. Okay, if you put it down to the corner, you can see that they're less than 90%. So you got 8 yards this direction. You got another 10 yards this direction. So there's a lot of extra green that you could tighten that up. So a lot of times that just stems from not setting up correctly, not getting a nice tight set before the play, and then everything that happens after that is, not you're starting from the wrong place, so everything happens kind of backwards, where you're not zooming out, you're zooming in to get to the action again, or you should be at least. All right, we got a lot of extra green up here, and then this guy runs towards the bottom of the screen here. I don't know if he actually crosses. He doesn't, but he's right there on the edge. And in the meantime, we get to see all these people over here. I'd rather see more space to this sideline, and just keep it kind of more centered down the hashes, top to bottom. And then guess what? They do throw it to the sideline, and the first thing you have to do is pan down to see it, right? So let's see the exact moment where that happens. He's up and he pans down. Okay, and you can see the pan down. If you're looking along this top edge, you can see where everybody gets cut out all of a sudden. All right, part of that is zooming, and part of that is panning. Special teams are very difficult. To be able to get all that action in the shot right there is excellent work. This is a nice tight frame, nice slow, steady movements with a run recognition. That's going to be as good as I've seen this entire game right there. Okay, a lot of space behind the quarterback again. There's really not much you can do to tighten up top to bottom, because they are spread out top to bottom. You can't really zoom in any farther, but if you're going to have that extra space, go ahead and put it to the defensive side, because guess what? The defenders are running backwards 20, 30 yards at times, okay? Sometimes more, right? So go ahead and put that extra space behind them and allow them to fill that space naturally, instead of immediately having to zoom out or pan the camera over to that spot anyway, adjusting everything where it was at before. Okay, this is still pretty wide. Still a lot of extra space along the edges. I don't know if that was no play or what. We'll just mark it as good. I don't know if it was a no play or snap the ball and downed immediately. Okay. Keeping everybody in the shot. It's good. Okay, that guy's right along the edge. I'm interested. Okay, so he moved over to make sure he stays in. Zooms out. Some run recognition and coming back in. And then back out again. Okay. It's good. Not as tight as it could be, but keeping everybody in the shot and moving with the flow of all the action. Yeah, that's good stuff. Okay. Panning up at the snap and then having to pan back down. Not bad. Really, overall was really, good footage. But just those little subtle movements sometimes can make a difference. Okay, cut the kicker out of that shot, and look at that. We got a much tighter shot there, and everybody's in the shot now. Now the kicker does re-enter to do the fist bump. Fist pump. That's excellent footage. That was good stuff. But in my opinion, the kicker really didn't offer anything that's worth staying zoomed out for. I thought that was a much better shot than anything else we've seen so far. Yeah. Okay. A lot of extra space on the left-hand side there. It's good stuff. Okay, 2 seconds left to go in the half. Putting points on the board. Nice job. Halftime, third quarter. Let's see what they do with the kicker on this one. Zooming out to keep the kicker in. All right, if you're not zooming out to keep the kicker in, it's just a straight pan. It's almost the exact same distance from the kicker to the back of the defense, the defensive front line, the receiving front line, as it is to from the front line back to the receiver. So all you got to do is pan over. And you'll see some other teams do that exact thing. They don't zoom out at all. They just pan over with the play. And I would consider that to be a much better use of your frame in order to see the rest of those 21 players all coming down the field. You see where the ball lands. You see how much distance the kicker got off of the kickoff. And then everything that happens. Okay, that was good stuff. You see the return, you see the people defending it. Yeah, that's good stuff on special teams there. You really have to anticipate hang time and then figure out where that ball's going off screen without really looking up. All right. A little jerky on the zooming in and out on that one. Pick one. You should be zooming out as the play expands and then zooming back in as the play condenses. Pretty tight there. They've got a lot of camera angles in the NFL. You really don't need to get that tight on a run. Okay, I like to keep about half the guys in the shot at the end of the play after you zoom in. Once you zoom in, just kind of keep some restraint to it so that you're still getting the detail without just zooming in on, 4 guys. That was an excellent shot. Nice tight framing to start. Okay. Seems like they're really kind of honing in some of the things that I was criticizing earlier in the game, they're doing a whole lot better at removing those. Again, seeing there's maybe 5 or 6 guys at the end of that shot. Okay, that's just kind of what I was referring to earlier. Keeping 11 guys, or more in the shot, you'll see plenty of detail. Still pretty aggressive at zooming out there and getting way more footage, more yardage than you need to. Okay, dropping people out on the back side there. This guy right here is gonna come off the screen. Okay, so zooming in, I don't know if does he actually come all the way off? Yep, just a little bit. But zooming in to start is probably not going to be the way to go. Almost seems like he got confused on the direction here. Just pressed the wrong button, thinking he was pressing to zoom out and he was zooming in. Okay, but this is tight footage. This is kind of where you want to be. If he didn't have this space here and kept this guy in the shot, I would consider that to be excellent footage, right? But as it is, keeping people in the shot is rule number 1 when they're part of the play, right? And that defender was clearly part of the play at that point. So on that one, I'm going to mark it as a release, just releasing with that. But really was probably more of just, not that he didn't release with him, is that he just got the controls mixed up there. Okay. All right, 4 guys in the shot, right? So zooming in on 4 guys, they've got camera angles that do that in the NFL. In this particular application, you don't really ever want to be that tight. If this is your high school team and you're filming for the coaching staff, and also they're going to use it for the highlight video, and you want to get some close-ups at the end of the play, that makes sense. But in this application, it just wouldn't. Okay, fantastic. Looks really good. Nice, really tight framing on that. All right, and then look how tight this framing is. This is picture perfect setup on a field goal. No reason to move the camera, specifically during the play. There was no reason to make any adjustments once they snapped the ball. Nice tight framing, and then just let people watch what happens. And that is the goal across the board. You have to do everything else to keep up with everybody. But if you don't have to move the camera, the best thing you can do is just let it run just where it's at. If you were to leave this framing just the way it is, and nobody runs outside of the frame, and there's no reason to make any adjustments, then that is the perfect shot, right? The coaches can see everything they need to without you being a part of it at all. But when they do start to run, that's when we become a part of it, and we have to keep up with everything. this filmer really did catch a groove here where they've really caught on to a lot of the things that that I was, making minor criticisms of earlier. I really wasn't docking them or saying that they were negative in any way. Just places where they could improve, and they did, right? The last game that I graded was 163 plays, and if you're making improvements every single time, you're getting 163 times better every single time. Every single time you film a game, at the end of it, you're that much better than when you started. All right, so this one's getting out wide again. All right, run recognition right there. As soon as he hands this off, there's nobody else running downfield. It's clearly not a play action pass. I don't see anybody responding that direction. Safeties are running up. Okay. If somebody all of a sudden just breaks out and runs a go route, then you can certainly adjust to that later. But at this point in this shot, bringing up the box. Okay. Quarterback does not count. He's already handed off the ball. This is the meat of what you're looking at on the field here. Okay, even if I give it a little bit of space on the edge, yeah, they're less than 50%. Okay, this less than the half point line on that, and then you can see on this side, and of course it's even more. So look how much unused space there is in this one shot, where all of the football is taking place right here. Okay, at that point, I'd rather just see the football. I'd rather see all the players in a nice tight shot, and then zooming in here, okay, to see who's really around the ball at the end of the play. But you really wouldn't have to zoom in at all if you hadn't, if you were able to stay tight on that the whole time. All right, got reset here on my play count. All right. This is the same play again. I think, yeah, that's the same play. All right. So I'm going to mark that one as a negative just for not clinging to the edge with the players. All right. Still overall grading out really well and looking really good. Okay, you got a guy running off the side here. See how we can avoid that. Okay, this guy's coming deep and runs right off the edge. Right there, gone. And you've got an extra 7 yards behind the quarterback, right? So if this space wasn't here, if you bring this in tighter here, then you would be able to keep this guy in without zooming out at all, not changing anything else about how you have this set up. So it's just a panning issue at that point, okay? And, you are going to drop these players out once the play develops, but at the point that this guy drops out, this play has not developed that far to say that this is, he's just released the pass. So I would want to see the rest of what was going on downfield for another, moment before I click that button and have to reset it again. But yeah, I would just want to see a little bit more of that, the rest of the play before zooming in on the swing pass to the outside there. All right. Anytime a player goes off the field view, I count that pretty heavily. It seems like that is the number one priority with any of the filmers in the NFL, is to make sure that nobody's running off no one's running out of the shot, unless absolutely necessary to stay with the rest of the footage, rest of what's going on the field. So, ooh. No play. That was a nice tight setup too. I was interested to see where that went. But It goes like that sometimes. Okay. Excellent. 4th and 9. Let's see what they're going to do. They're going to punt. Coach says punt. Punter. Hang time. Ball lands. Okay. Punter's happy. He's got stats. Filmer did an excellent job. All right. Look at that. Nice tight shot. I don't see any reason to zoom any closer than that. It's good stuff. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. Quite the dance. Awesome. Great job of zooming out with everybody, recognizing how that play changed very quickly, and then responding to it. Excellent. Fourth and 14. What are they going to do? They're punting. I knew it. They always do that. Okay, punter. Punts the ball. Hang time. Oh, right there. Okay. All right, so this is where it gets difficult. All right. Here, you can even see the punt in this shot. Now, 99.9% of the time, you're not going to be able to see this punt absolutely every time it goes off the screen. But this one's low and flat and just kind of knuckleballs and then lands right there. But right here, this is where special teams get tricky, right? You have to zoom out because everybody's, spreading out down the field. But they're, again, only using up a small amount of the field in this one. All right. It could be that you could come in tighter here. All right, let's just measure it. Okay. That's the setup. That's the tightest setup you can get, and they'd be about 90%. So, they could come in a little tighter and then zoom out as the punt goes through. You want to leave the punter in the shot just a little bit. Okay. Here they do leave the punter and then zoom out to keep the punter in the shot for much longer. Really, zooming out for this is completely unnecessary. This is where you want to be framed up at right there. And then the downside is you don't really know where this ball is going to land until you see it, right? So a lot of times the returner is off screen, and then you just have to zoom out until you find him, right? While also keeping this left-hand side, these guys, as they're running this way on the left-hand side of the screen. That's what makes it so difficult to do. And people that are able to do this are, very, very good at their job, right? It is a challenge. It is absolutely a challenge. But, in this particular situation, you can get tighter. But I wouldn't say that most people are going to be able to do that any better than what they did there. Oh my. Okay, still some extra space along the edges that they could tighten up if they really wanted to make that improvement. Okay. That's excellent footage right there. Excellent. Still a lot of zooming back and forth. The flow should be to zoom out after the snap of the ball as needed, and then recognizing where the play is going, and then zooming in at that point. Zooming out and then zooming back in. Okay. Yeah. Okay, nice tight frame to start. Leave it right there. Do not zoom out any farther. Stay in tight. You've got this. Pretty good. Fourth and 18. Special teams on the field. Field goal. Kicking it. Very confident that it went through. And it did. Special teams. Kickoff. Alright, so we've had it both ways here. Been keeping the kicker in sometimes, and then at times, the one time he did not. So, okay, nice tight frame. Staying with everybody. Did keep the kicker in the shot on that one. That could get a little tighter if you just dropped him out immediately. But, okay. That one, a lot of zooming out without anyone really indicating that there's a reason to do that. Okay. 3rd and 1. Spread out. Long ball. Oh. Did a great job of keeping up with everybody. 4th down, special teams. Punt. Punts away. Okay. A lot of extra space behind the receiver, but I'd rather have that and see where the ball lands. It's pretty typical of anybody filming that, because you don't know where the ball's going to land and because you don't even really know where that player's lined up at, because he's off screen, right? Everybody else is on your screen, and that one guy is somewhere. So a lot of times you'll see a lot of extra space. Once you recognize that that's where the ball's going to land, then you can zoom back in. But almost any time, any filmer I've seen at any level who's really, really good is still going to have space behind the returner on that. If they don't, I mean, that's a next level filmer. I have seen it, but it's very rare. Okay, got a lot of extra space behind the running back on this, and it's not really used. Okay, immediately going the other direction. Most plays don't go backwards. Okay, if they do, you can respond in those situations, but as a betting, playing the odds, I'm going to bet that the play is going to go forward in most cases. Okay. Alright, so here we go. Passes away, passes received, still zooming out and still leaving a ton of extra space here. So that's a cling issue, and the box is going to show do have one more guy out there. This guy is just out there. Okay. 65 to 70% of your screen being used there. Okay, and it really comes down to centering the ball. It's a natural tendency. As soon as you see that ball is there, put him right in the center of the screen, right? But by doing that, you're not really showing that player in relation to the other players. You're just showing him in relation to your own equipment, right? That doesn't really make any sense. We would rather see the player in relation to where he's at on the field and where the other players on the field are at. Excellent. Great setup. Okay. All right. So I'm looking at this setup, okay? Breaking the huddle. A little bit of adjusting here with the camera. Some guys moving around. Right there. That is fantastic. Okay? And I can throw the box up on it, but I can just tell you it's like 95% of the screen is football, right? And the guy goes in motion. Didn't go anywhere outside of that frame, so there's really no reason to adjust it, right? Just leave it. You got the perfect framing. Okay? If this guy is going to go in motion, let him. If he continues to run, yeah, once he gets to about here and he's still going that way, you're going to start to zoom out to keep up with him. But in this case, he's not doing that. And, as a filmer, you probably see this play practiced 1,000 times during practice. You probably know that he's going to do that motion in most cases. That particular player is a blocking, player. So his primary role is going to be blocking. In most cases, they might have a certain play that they might run every once in a while that he continues on and they just get him the ball out there to the edge. But the majority of times he's going to go in motion. He's going to be going in motion to get to this edge and block here or block here. And so I'm going to figure that I don't have to adjust I just got the perfect setup. I don't need to adjust that one bit in order to keep that guy in the shot. Okay? But nitpicking, just a slight camera move on that, which was overall just excellent footage. All right? But those slight adjustments, every time you make that slight adjustment, the person watching, their entire screen just moved. Right? The entire viewing area just moved. Now, we're used to it. We watch football all the time, and we're used to everybody moving around. But if you can lock down the starting point, which is your camera, then everything that happens is football. And that helps your team to just be able to evaluate what they're doing and make those corrections week to week. If they're seeing what they're doing on screen every single week, they're better than everybody else, right? I'm seeing what I'm doing better than my opponents, better than the people I'm competing against. I'm going to be able to make those corrections more efficiently as a player, and with the goal of our entire team getting better. And so in doing that, your role as a filmer is very important for everybody on the field to get good footage so that they can make those corrections, they can make those improvements, and they can come back the next week even better. And you can make those improvements so that they can make those improvements. All right, first first down on the no play offsides. All right, we've got aside from the one where the guys weren't on sticking to the edge of the clinging to the edge of the shot. We've had a string of excellent plays here, and culminating in a touchdown. Special teams, extra point. Whoa. Okay. Some camera movement in there. And there was one guy, about 5 yards deep in as a defender. I'd go ahead and keep that guy in the shot and not move the camera. Just on a extra point, you lock it down and you don't move it unless there is a blocked kick, and then then it's a free-for-all. Anything goes. Camera's moving all over the place. That shot right there was excellent. One of the better zoomed out wide shots that I've seen in this game. This one still had an extra 10 yards behind the defender. Still good. Still very, very usable footage for anybody watching, but it can be better and you can tighten it up. All right. Same thing here. It can be tighter, but you got the majority of the extra space to the defender side, which is great. Okay. I think that's the biggest difference here. Okay. This is about 2/3 to the defense rule. Okay. As a general rule, the ball's about 2/3 of the way towards the defense. So you got 1/3 for the offense, 2/3 to the defense. If there is extra space, it's to the defensive side. If you really wanted to tighten this up, you could. Okay. If you really look at it, they're about 85 to 90%. All right. So a slight adjustment in tightening it up. And then let's just see here. All right. You still got 10 yards here, so you really didn't need to zoom out to start. You can just let that happen naturally. As people start to fill that frame, you can anticipate that they're going to continue to backpedal. All right. So at this point, we're wide, right? A lot of space behind the quarterback and a lot of space behind the defender. And when you add that all together, now we're back to 70%. Okay. And 70% is passing in school, I guess. Like a C, right? But there's definitely room to make that better. In this case, I like to have no more than 10 yards as a buffer on either side. We're way past that at this point, so I would mark that as a negative, as a cling issue. Okay, nice tight frame. Yep, things are zooming out. Excellent. That's fantastic. That's excellent stuff. Okay, look at this framing. Nice setup. Okay. Zooming out just to make sure, which is understandable, but recognizing that run and coming in makes a whole lot of sense. Just paying attention to what's going on the field, seeing the run, seeing that everybody's running straight ahead instead of running everywhere all at once. Special teams, deep punt. Oh, no. Oh, no. the muffed punt. Alright. And then the best play in football, victory. Okay. And there it is. And a backflip midair. Pause. Amazing. Alright. So, let's look at the tail of the numbers here on the score chart. Alright. We've got a total of 135 plays. 123 of those are positive. Okay. Score of 91%. Of those 135 plays, 68% were excellent. So a little bit of a bonus there. Puts you to 97.93%. But that's, like I said, this is the best of the best in the business. Any coach across the country would love to have footage like this. There is room for improvement. There are filmers that, are getting tighter and staying with guys as they run down the field, and you can see the difference when they do that. And it is a learned skill. It is something that can be improved upon, and it just takes a little bit more practice and some understanding your equipment and knowing how to use it to make the best of each opportunity that you have, which in this case was 135 plays. And in those 135 plays, if you make improvements every single time, you're on your way to being very, very good at this. Okay. But with that, you also have to know what to do in order to make those improvements. And that's what I'm here for. Grading each one, showing you what I'm seeing in each one that can be improved upon, and then it's up to you to make those changes to get better every play. So until next time, see you then.